I sure miss frozen yogurt stores. Oh, they're not gone or anything, I just like remembering them. In 2026, I feel like third places are pretty lacking. A third place being the concept of a separate, neutral space to spend time in outside of home, work, or school. If the 80s had malls, the 90s had coffee shops, and the 2000s largely returned back to the mall era, then the 2010s had frozen yogurt shops. Or Froyo for short, if you want to be cool. That being cool part, pun sort of intended, was actually a big reason why frozen yogurt reached its peak popularity. Foods turning into fads isn't anything new. The late 2000s had a rise of gourmet cupcakes, and boba tea and crumble cookies are still pretty relevant as modern examples.
0 out of 10.
But no one was really hanging around the bakeries after buying an overpriced $6 cupcake, and most crumble stores don't even have seating in them. The difference in this food fad of the 2010s was that it wasn't just a food, it was an experience. At the trend's peak, you could throw a stone in any direction and hit one of probably 10 Froyo spots nearby, which made the choice of where should we go tonight pretty straightforward. Feel like hanging out with your friends? Go get some Froyo. Want dessert after dinner? Froyo. Did you not even have plans to eat but passed one of the many stores in your local area while going somewhere else? Well, I guess you'd still better stop and get some Froyo just because it's there. And it didn't matter which store you went to. Compared to coffee shops or other stores that typically have some variation in themes and decor, frozen yogurt was almost always accompanied by a particular aesthetic. Chains like Sweet Cece's, Sweet Frog, Menchie's, or any other store that put sweet or yo or gurt in its title were all not just trendy to visit, but trendy on the inside. Bright pink, green, and blue were the unofficial frozen yogurt store colors, and usually featured a ton of circles or rounded elements, from the counters to the chairs and tables to the decor. It was basically like if this mood board was a store, or if Frutiger Aero and Frutiger Metro merged into a neon bubble-shaped frozen yogurt entity with an iPod Nano for a brain. Did other stores at the time also use similar color schemes or design influences? Of course. Every time period has its defining styles and motifs. But because Froyo rose in popularity so fast during this particular era, the 2010s core was baked into the stores as they came and went, becoming an extension of the decade itself instead of just occurring during it. So clearly the stores looked pretty cool, but that is just the beginning. Frozen yogurt was actually invented all the way back in the 70s, and by 1976 appeared in its first chain locations. Just like the modern versions, shops like Everything Yogurt and others like it sold soft serve Froyo and even had some toppings if you wanted to get a little crazy with it. While it was popular, it also eventually fizzled out and never turned into a full-on fad. Until, beginning in the late 2000s, the people were given Froyo Freedom. Soft serve machines were moved from behind the counter for employees to the dining space for customers. And now you too could dispense a magic mountain of technically not ice cream but still a frozen dessert, and yeah, it may as well just be ice cream. Get a little, get a lot. Get carried away by just watching it wind around your cup and then not be able to finish it all. Or try your best to make a perfect swirl but probably never get it quite right. Where else can you get this kind of entertainment? My experience with customer-facing soft-serve machines is limited to one cruise I went on, the Chinese buffet I frequented as a kid, and one time I worked at an ice cream shop for 3 days as a teenager. That's it. So the answer, not really that many places, which means the novelty of DIY dispensing is strong. Even if your swirl does come out a little crooked or way bigger than you planned for, maybe the real friends were the overzealous piles of frozen yogurt we made along the way. And the flavors. Oh, the flavors. You thought just because it's not ice cream there wouldn't be any variety? Think again. You've got the basics, of course, but also confectionery flavors, specialty flavors, fruit flavors and sorbet, even the occasional seasonal selections. Most stores had around 6 different dispensers, but could have even more, rotated flavors often, and every pair of flavors in the same machine could be combined. Dual action, 2-in-1 swirl flavor fusion. I never really did this because I'm autistic and like most of my foods to be separate and distinct, but if you wanted to do the mixy thing, you totally could. But wait, there's more. You want toppings with that? Of course you do. Do you want to put the toppings on by yourself? Of course you do. Candy, cookies, sauces, nuts, fruits, other miscellaneous things that don't fit into broader categories. You've got options on options. It's like if Golden Corral and Dairy Queen had a baby. The Dairy Corral. Actually, that doesn't sound that good, but you get the point. If you were missing ice cream flavors with mix-ins like Rocky Road or chocolate chip cookie dough that can't be dispensed, you could make your own pseudo chocolate chip cookie dough with the toppings bar, and make sure you got the ratio of yogurt to cookie dough that you deserve. I was always partial to chocolate with a mix of Oreos, hot fudge, and gummy worms on top, so it was basically a Froyo version of those little dirt and mud cups with the chocolate pudding. Honestly, we need more candy mud cups. In 2026, I'm tired of pretending like it's not a god-tier dessert. Anyway, let me know what your go-to flavor and topping combo is, ice cream or Froyo-wise. I find it's a very intriguing personality test. One of the best parts of the Froyo experience was that the majority of stores charged by the weight of your haul. No estimating with sizes or number of scoops, but full control and accountability over your masterpiece. Honestly, just looking at the creation you made at the end was almost more satisfying than actually eating it. It's like Papa's Freezeria, but in real life. I love that a substantial part of the reason why these stores took off is because people just have so much fun with the self-serve machines and getting creative. Not every store had self-serve toppings, probably because it did have a tendency to get messy. Too many little spoons and tongs and bottles and tiny children licking it all. But the main attraction, the DIY dispensers, were always a staple. You're involved and part of the process, not just ordering off a menu, and that's the appeal. If I walked into a Froyo store and couldn't pour it myself, I would be substantially disappointed, even though it tastes the exact same no matter who's doing the dispensing. In a similar vein, an influx of frozen yogurt options became available in grocery stores around the 2010s too. A lot of companies sold new prepackaged products, while some yogurt brands encouraged freezing their existing products, which is so funny to me. They were probably watching the trends like, oh my god guys, frozen yogurt is getting really big, what a great day to be a yogurt company. Wait, why is no one buying it? It's yogurt. Guys, it's freezable. Please, it's already yogurt. It's always been yogurt. You just have to freeze it. While they did have a point, and lots of people probably did freeze their favorite yogurt, these companies were missing the point. It wasn't just that it was yogurt that was frozen, and it wasn't even just that the trendy stuff was soft serve and a different entity altogether. It was about the collective experience. Though they weren't generally as popular as the DIY version, grocery options were an alternative that wasn't just more convenient, but more affordable. Using this U-Swirl chain receipt from 2010 as a reference, and Jesus, this person got almost a pound of frozen yogurt. Okay, well, the price for all of that was 36 cents per ounce. It's difficult to find 2010 grocery prices for specific items, particularly for discontinued frozen yogurt items, but here's a modern comparison. Even a brand like Yasso that's less generic is currently 39 cents an ounce, or around 26 cents per ounce in 2010. The difference in price here definitely adds up, especially if you're Mr. 14.5 ounces from the old receipt. Hey, no judgment though, it's Probably good I don't have any ancient receipts from my own Froyo days. I don't think I would have fared much lighter. The pay-by-weight method seems at a glance like a convenience, paying only for exactly what you want, but that doesn't mean it was a good deal. Were we all blind to the reality of the price, or just found a way to justify it by paying for the experience? Maybe it was a little bit of both, being willingly blinded by the novelty. I guess a good rule of thumb is that if it's part of a fad, even if it technically could be sold for cheap, an item's price is going to reflect its popularity. And yet, all that being said, if I'm buying a prepackaged frozen dessert, I don't have any loyalty to frozen yogurt. If it doesn't come packaged with a dispenser and a topping free for all, I'm probably just gonna skip the Froyo altogether and go with a tub of regular ice cream instead. Which is actually a good time to ask the question, how exactly is frozen yogurt any different than ice cream? While just the fun of going and doing frozen yogurt was definitely part of its appeal, another advantage was that it wasn't ice cream. They both have similar ingredients, but the main difference is the standard fat content. At least 10% for ice cream and at least 3.25% for frozen yogurt. Less fat means less calories, and less calories, along with low fat, no sugar added, or sugar-free options, means it can be touted as a health food. Look at all of our promotional images of healthy looking yogurt options. Wow. Light flavors, nutritious toppings, totally really good for you and slimming.
I'm totally gonna put some fruits and nuts on top and get the most healthy option.
Eat as much as you want because it's not ice cream, it's something else that only has half the calories. Well, it can have half the calories. That is, if you only get around 4 ounces, which is about 1 scoop or a small-sized ice cream, pick a low-fat and or low-sugar flavor, and stick to limited amounts of only the healthy toppings like fruit or granola. And that's all assuming that you're getting a standard frozen yogurt, which in contrast to ice cream is actually not FDA regulated in America. While there are conventions, who's to say how low fat your Froyo really is without reading the nutrition facts for yourself? In other words, even those healthy promo pictures aren't as light and slimming as they may seem. Never mind that big moolah mountain you created when zoning out at the dispenser for too long, or any other tall and wide pile of Froyo loaded up with so many sugary toppings that you can barely see the soft serve anymore. That's what mine usually look like. This is definitely not the first or the last food fad to gain popularity based on health-related claims. Anything from smoothies to Subway to protein cookies to fiber-filled brownies all seem like a more worthwhile, health-conscious option, but that doesn't mean that they're inherently good for you. Healthy is just a subjective label that's reliant on contingencies and more open to interpretation than being a hard fact. I'm really curious how common it was to actually consider the quote-unquote healthy side of frozen yogurt during its peak and actively choose it over another dessert instead of just following a fad. As far as teenage me was concerned, Froyo was just ice cream but different, and I didn't think twice about the nutritional value. Okay, well, maybe I did think about it a little, but really only in the context of this is ice cream but different. I know I hyped up all the flavor options before, and there were still lots of options, which is good, but it was made with less fat and often less sugar, which meant it was also lighter in flavor. And compared to the same flavors of ice cream, especially something rich like caramel, peanut butter, or chocolate, I have to say it would never be as good as regular ice cream. Don't get me wrong, sugar is sugar, and I was still a frequent Froyoer as a teenager. It certainly wasn't light enough to actually deter anyone from still buying and enjoying it, clearly. But in retrospect, I feel like both the novelty and the toppings did a lot of the heavy lifting. So the apparent health benefits weren't technically a lie, and were popular enough to be discussed on the news, or sometimes right in the shop's name itself. But none of that really matters if you were just going out for dessert and happened to pick Froyo because it's popular. In other words, I would argue that most people didn't even really consider the difference in calories or fat, or considered it passively at best, and just treated it like I did, interactive ice cream, but different. Regardless of whether you were in it for health-conscious reasons or not, once you had your cup loaded up and customized, right down to your chosen color of spoon at some stores, then all that was left to do was socialize. As long as you avoided peak traffic times, like after a high school football game, there was a casual and relatively quiet atmosphere to Froyo stores that invited conversation. And similar to a cafe or coffee shop, hanging around after you finished your yogurt or just stopping by to meet some friends was commonplace. This is what turned an ordinary dessert store into a third place, especially among younger demographics of tweens, teens, and young adults. Obviously, you don't have to be a certain age to enjoy frozen yogurt, but those modern interiors with their flashy decor appealed even more so to the trendsetters themselves. Just by walking in, you'd probably join your peers who were also sitting at an aesthetically circular table, or you'd at least be seen by them, which awarded you some cool points just for showing up. Better yet, you could even bring your digital camera along with you and take some photo evidence of your trendy evening out, ready to be edited on Picnic later and posted to Facebook, further fueling both the social appeal and popularity of the fad altogether. The local spot I frequented as a tween was just a minute away from the movie theater, which is one of the only other few places I could hang out in aside from the mall or the park. After the movies, when my friends and I would walk in, there were usually other people in store who were around our age, finished with the main attraction and just using the store as a social space. The store also had these little cards that customers were encouraged to write on and leave behind, so that along the wall were hundreds of little notes all strung together, filled with drawings and jokes and insert person's name was here. While this was more of a unique experience to just one local shop, I think it's still a great physical manifestation of the community that my store, other Froyo chains, and third places in general are able to cultivate. Compare this atmosphere to areas like coffee shops, bars, clubs, gyms, adult-oriented by nature, or completely unavailable to kids altogether. Froyo shops might not seem that different on the surface, but for tweens and teens, it wasn't just social and youthful, but considerably more accessible, inviting, and affordable, at least relative to other activities. I appreciate this aspect of Froyo a lot more in hindsight, as I realize how important it is for young people especially to have spaces that are available to them, if not designed with them in mind. When I was younger, I was just having fun seeing how much I could lower the nutritional value of yogurt by stacking a bunch of gummy worms on top. But I see now that it was more than that. It sounds cheesy, but beneath that mess of Oreos and gummy worms, like pretty far down, because they were really layered on there, there was a sense of togetherness, social experience, and lasting memories from my teenagehood. While this is a retrospective, that doesn't mean that frozen yogurt or third places are completely extinct, though in 2026 they are both on the decline. As for third spaces, online community has largely overshadowed the need for physical hangout spots, while frozen yogurt has trailed its way back down the trend cycle to being generally unpopular, if not obsolete. Even though you can still find Froyo stores, I have to wonder if the experience is as inviting without the social hype and Frutiger metroness of it all. Maybe the trend was just too oversaturated, leading to as many late 2010s store closures as there were store openings in the beginning of the decade. Maybe it lost its novelty once you realize it's essentially just an ice cream buffet and that you didn't even really like ice cream as much as you just liked feeling cool. Or maybe ice cream eventually just reclaimed its primary popularity back from the healthy imposter because it just tastes better. But who knows? With the rise in popularity of Y2K aesthetics, the 2010s renaissance can't be too far behind. I've already seen plenty of posts romanticizing old Instagram filters and galaxy print, so maybe the great Froyo resurgence is next in line. Even though 2026 frozen yogurt won't ever hit quite the same as a fresh, overpriced cup of ice cream but different in 2012. I really hope that if it does come back, the whimsy and community that it fosters can also return with it. Hi, welcome to Jelly TV, where I shout out a video that I think deserves some love. I recommend watching The Lost Media of The Sims by Maybe Salem. As a lifetime lover of The Sims, I'm always interested to learn new things about it, and Maybe Salem really delivers with some undermentioned gems, including things I'd never heard of before. They cover everything from gameplay to development and intricacies of each project, and I really love their scripting style. If you also appreciate the Sims franchise or video game Lost Media, then you should give this video a watch. A huge thank you to Daniel E. from ABQ, Bunny, Bunzo, Karis Desarun, Chumby, Knuckleoso, Lojma Animal, Lou, Luna Stephenson, Mark Kent, Megan Hassler, Nighttime Coral, Ollie E., Paper Sam, Pharmamags, Pixel Puppy, Shaples, Theodore Nicolawilius, Tish_Guy, and the rest of my patrons for supporting me. You know what time it is. Time to get your indisputable jelly government-assigned Froyo topping based entirely on vibes. It's like a personality quiz. Which Froyo topping are you? If you didn't get to pick any answers to get a result. Hopefully none of you are allergic to your new permanent identity.